conversations earlier. I know there's a lot of questions out there, and obviously we've all been breathing smoke for a long time now. So we'd like to find out what's going on with the fire and where it's at and what's happening. So thank you guys so much for coming out. I'm going to just run through the agenda so you guys know what we're looking at and who we have in the room here tonight. And then we'll go ahead and get things kicked off. So we've got Matt Ellis here. Matt is the local district fire management officer, and he's also been an incident commander on this incident. We also have Rob Kephart, who is also the current incident commander for this incident at this time. And then we've got Aaron Uloff, who is the agency administrator here as well. And then we have Maurice Goodall with Okanagan County Emergency Management. And they're all going to speak to you a little bit about what's going on with the fire and where we're at with evacuations. Then once we're done with the presentation time, I know this is a large room and a lot of folks have questions, so we have 4 maps set up, one in every corner. These good folks will make themselves available, as well as some of our other fire folks who are in the room tonight. And we'll stay as long as it takes. We're scheduled to end at 7, but we'll stay as long as it takes to talk to each of y'all individually and answer your questions. Okay? So after we're done with those presentations, then we'll go into individual question time, and folks will be available at those maps to answer your specific questions. All right, so...
Will you not open up the audience to questions?
Yeah, so good question. So the question was, are you going to take questions during the presentation? With a room this large, that's going to be really difficult to manage. So if you would, please just save your questions until the end when we do break up. And hopefully they'll be answered during the course of the presentation. But if it's not answered and you really want to get into specifics about an area or a question that you have or a specific drainage, like I said, we'll be available at those maps to answer those specific questions.
I'd like to consider compromise and change that, because there are people here who have come tonight to these issues of level 1 alert. There are questions and answers that could be shared and could be a benefit to everyone here.
I appreciate that feedback. We're going to stick with what we've got, and if we host another public meeting, we can certainly consider that for another one. All right, so without further ado, we're going to hand it over to Matt Ellis to give an incident overview.
All right, good evening. I'm Matt Ellis, District Fire Management Officer here on the Mid-Ohio Valley Ranger District, and currently IC training for this incident. So Holly's going to bring up Google Earth here, and we'll navigate around the incident, and hopefully this will give you a good idea of where we're working, the size of the incident, and the fuel topography, and the terrain that we're working in. So Diamond Creek incident started right there at the start block there. That's the head of Diamond Creek on July 23rd. And once again, you can see the terrain there. It's very steep. Very rocky ground, extremely remote, and this area has heavy timber with lots of dead and down vegetation in it for the last number of years. So again, July 23rd, we discovered the incident then and dispatched 8 smoke jumpers. They took suppression activities for that day, and we also had multiple pieces of aircraft, including a Type 1 helicopter and multiple Type 2 helicopters. So over the next 24, 48, and 72 hours, we continued direct suppression actions. And at the end of the 4th day, we made a 4-mile run to the head of the drainage there. If you can zoom back out, Holly, just a little bit. Keep going just a little further. To the very far right of the red perimeter there, going due east. Right there where it tops out in the high elevation. We'll go a little bit further.
Speak right into the mic, Matt.
Yep, there you go. Is that better? Yep. So, again, it made a 4-mile run the afternoon of the 4th shift, of which we ordered the incident management team. So, again, since then, this is day 46, and we've been taking some pretty aggressive actions, either direct or indirect, ever since. So now we'll just kind of do an operational update, go around the horn here, going counterclockwise. So if you can scroll down just a little bit. Perfect. So this is the 8-mile drainage at the very bottom of the end of the fire here. This area is very cold, has been for a number of weeks. We'll just keep cruising up around. There's basically on the south end, we had a lot of direct suppression activities that included hand line production from hand crews and engines, and we also did a burnout operation. On the east side here, is all pretty much tied into the high elevation rock, as you can see. And as we keep moving to the east and northeast, this is the biggest area that has had fire growth in the last week. These areas made 4 to 5 mile runs at night and in the afternoon on the 1st and 2nd of September. And this is the Ashnola Drainage, Spanish Creek, and Rimwood Lake area, if you guys are familiar with that. So then on the north end of the fire into Canada, that area has been fairly quiet the last 2 days. But before that, it was making some pretty considerable runs to the north and northwest. Okay, so now for the west side. At the very top, you've got the East Fork of the Passaic River, which is, yep, right there. That area is fairly active. It's been continuing to back. It has single tree torching and group tree torching all the way down. It continues to back down the drainage there. As we move our way to the south, in this area here, a lot of that those drainages have burned out, and it's burned itself up to the high elevation rock. That's good right there. So these are some of the areas that we have that are of concern. Okay, sorry about that. So in this area here, this is the Pack Creek drainage. This area has been fairly quiet over the last week and a half. It does have some potential in there. There is still a little bit of isolated heat. We continue to work that with helicopters when and where possible. And then the biggest area that is of our concern right now would be this area. This is Ptarmigan Creek, and then Butte Pass, and then this is Monument Creek. So again, this area here is our most considerable piece of concern for the moment, and we're going to be looking to take some additional actions in there where and when it's safe to do so.
All right, thank you, Matt. Now we're going to hand it over to Rob Kephart for a look at what's ahead and what we're up to currently.
Thank you all for coming. So before I talk about the actions that we're currently taking, I want to share a few things with you. So incident commanders, ICs, the guys or people who are ultimately responsible for everything that happens on an incident, typically have 3 primary concerns. Number 1, firefighter and public safety. Number 2, building the organization right so the coordination is all going on. And then protecting the values at risk. So safety is a word that we use a lot, and I'm just going to take a minute and tell you what that means to me personally. So on the 3rd, not on our fire, there was a Forest Service employee who was at Black Peak doing some work, and he got struck by a rock. Pretty serious head injury. That's an incredibly easy place to access, and we actually had a rescue helicopter working on the fire. The emergency call went out in a couple of minutes, and it still took us, doing everything right and timely, 3 hours to get that person to the hospital. That's a long time, right? So the problem we have with this fire in the wilderness, it's incredibly rugged, incredibly steep terrain, all kinds of trees. We may not even be able to get a ship to a person if we put them in there. That would mean that it would take typically 60-odd firefighters to carry somebody out like that. And when they're engaged in that kind of mission, and you probably hear some nervousness in my voice, it's personal to me. They're also at an incredibly exposed level of risk trying to do that. So while the fire was hung up where it was until the 2nd, that's why firefighters weren't in the wilderness directly suppressing the fire. Okay, so, and it's going to be a lot easier when we get to the breakouts to talk on the individual maps and show you the lines. We've started some direct construction, essentially coming from out of Yellow Jacket, up through Sunset Peak, over to 8 Mile, in an attempt to cut that off. And then if it forces our hands, we're hoping that we could fire off of that and protect the communities. So I know there's a lot of concerns about how many management changes and things like that, and different levels of management and all that stuff, and I'll speak to that a bit too. Even if this had stayed a type 1 incident for the length of the incident, we work in 14-day rotations. So there would have been all of those changes. But the one thing that has stayed the same up until the second was the overall plan. On the second, we saw those large 5-mile runs, in Ashnola and Spanish Castle and in Ptarmigan Creek. And so the original plan called for issuing the level 1 evacuation when the fire was within 5 miles of your communities. So another issue that we're up against right now is nationally, fires burning everywhere. In the nation right now, there are 25,000 firefighters committed, and it's at the point where they're moving resources daily to the communities that are most threatened. So with all that in mind, and knowing that the fire can move 5 miles in an afternoon now, we spoke with Maurice and we asked him to go ahead and initiate the level 1. So the great thing about the smoke, not that it's great to breathe and all of that, it's kept the fire behavior down for 2 days, and we've seen minimal growth. But we're thinking about what happens next, how do we get up on the priority list, and how do we start showing the need for help here. And so that's initiating that level 1 stuff. And so when we get to our breakouts, we can talk about specific actions. And like Holly said, we want to answer all of your questions, and if it takes all night, we'll talk to each one of you individually. We'll tell you everything that we're doing and what our plans are. Thank you for coming.
I'll keep this on. Hi everybody, my name is Erin Ulock. I'm a district ranger for the Forest Service. You guys, a lot of you probably know Mike Liu, who's still the ranger here. He's just in Mongolia. And he didn't run away because of the fire. He had a long time commitment to go over there and do some actually really important work. He asked me to come over and help out with this fire, and I'm here, and I'm really happy to be here. I'm the ranger at the Mount Baker district, so this is sort of we like coming over here, hop on the pass and come over. There's been a lot of good points touched on, and I'm just going to wrap up a few other pieces before we have Maurice step up and speak. We heard from Matt that there was initial attack happened. It was a human start. We took aggressive action pretty quickly and did everything we could to get after it. This incident has gone for 40-something days, and we continue to take a lot of action. One of the things about having fires in this kind of landscape, when we talk about safety in the Forest Service, we talk a lot about risk. And what do we do with risk, and how do we think about risk? One of the things that we talk about is, okay, so either the firefighters take the risk on the ground, or the helicopters take the risk by flying around. And what we have to do here is we have to say there's still a lot of safety concerns, but we're transferring that to the helicopters. And so we've continued to take aggressive action the whole time and had a lot of air activity. What maybe that's meant for you living in this valley is that you haven't seen engines driving around. You haven't seen crews. You haven't seen machines driving through your community. We haven't had a lot of that high level of staffing that you guys are pretty familiar with how fire works. You normally see when things start to get amped up. And that's because of the nature of this incident. It's far away, and it's been operating a little bit maybe under the radar of some of us because we're just not seeing or hearing or aware of that helicopter operation that's been going on. We've had some strategic insertion of, that's some high-end language, but we've put people in there when we've needed to, and then we've taken them back out when we've succeeded or when it's been demonstrated that it's not effective. That was sort of the beginning and how we proceeded. There's still more season left. We've got a number of weeks. We haven't seen rain for a long time. We haven't seen rain since June. We're used to seeing rain by now, and we haven't seen any. We don't know that there's any projected in the forecast. We're looking at several more weeks, and we're not alone. The whole West is in the same boat. If you look at nationally the priorities, Montana is above the Pacific Northwest right now. So we don't have it as bad as Montana nationally. That's kind of the scene. Given that, we are doing everything in our power to do everything we can to manage this fire and to keep it out of your community. Just today, we had a really great meeting with a number of individuals and organizations in your community. And I want to say, especially as an outsider, the relationships that you have cultivated here are top tier. I'm jealous. It's a pretty amazing spot. And you guys have done the work to have those relationships in place, and they're here, and that's going to matter. It matters regardless of what happens, but if it comes to it, it's going to matter that those relationships are in place. So we had a great community meeting, and we had everyone show up. We had the mayor of Winthrop show up. We had police show up. We had emergency services show up. We had Aero show up. We had DNR show up. We had a whole slew of community and the fire district. 20 plus people. And we sat down and we said, all right, here's the fire. What are we going to do? How do we need to be coordinating? How do we need to be preparing? What do we need to be thinking about? That's a testament to the work that you guys are all part of. And we're just going to need to continue it. And we're committed and we're here. At the end of the day, those of us doing all this work, and you guys are seeing some firefighters in here, and you probably maybe see photos of like really tired firefighters. They're doing a lot of really hard work. But you know what? It's for this community. You guys are at the top. And that's true everywhere we're fighting fire. But here today, the people that you see in front of you, we are spending a lot of time. We are going to spend hours with those coordinators. We're going to spend hours here at this meeting. We will spend hours on the phone. We will do what it takes because we're here for you. Thanks.
Good evening. Maurice Goodall with Okanagan County Emergency Management. I have a couple questions here. I'm a little bit different than these guys. I don't fight the fire. What I try to do is feed you guys information and alert you with their information to get out so you guys are out of harm's way. So I have a question. With hands, can you tell me who lives in the Lost River drainage down to Mazama to Lancaster area? Okay. The people that got the message yesterday of the alert level, put your hands down. Who didn't get a message yesterday that lived in that drainage? Okay, that I asked people that did not get the message that actually live in that drainage, please go and sign up with our alert system. Because for some reason you're not in our system. So we got to make sure that we're there. Okay, who got the message about the meeting tonight? I think it works. Okay? If somebody did not get that message yesterday and the accident message that I sent out an hour or so ago, it was an accident because it said tomorrow. I was trying to get you not to show up. That's what I'm trying to do. So, if you did not get that message, that also means that that was the school district for the Methow Valley. That's how I send that out. If you did not get that message, you need to sign up with our system. Now, if there was an emergency that was going out, you probably would have got it because I probably have your house number, but I don't have your personal information to make sure that's right. So what I'm asking everybody to do is to pass it on to neighbors and whatnot. Number one is sign up for our alert system at OkanaganDEM.org. We got to make sure we have your information. That's how we can get this out to you. But let's throw that aside. We all know there's a fire out there. We all should have a plan and decide what we should do. The people that are in harm's way, right up front near the fire, those are the first people that we're going to go after. If we have to go from a level 1 to a level 2 to a level 3. You need to be able to help your family and friends. But to do that, you have to be prepared yourself. That's all I'm asking is to have a plan, have it in place, know when you're going to activate that plan. It's better to leave earlier than later. Why? Because we have firefighters, we have law enforcement people that if you're still at your house and I want to stay, don't you think that those people feel obligated to come to your house and to try to help you when really maybe they shouldn't be there. Maybe you shouldn't be there because you really can't protect yourself. You can't replace the life, you can replace the house. I know we all want to save it, I do too. But it's hard, it's something we have to decide. So at any rate, what I'm asking you to do, we're right now at a level 1. The fire's quite a distance away from us. It's 12 miles from Lost River Airport, roughly. Is that what it is? And the reason we went to level 1, like you said, was because the fire was moving quite rapidly, and then all of a sudden it went stagnant a little bit, and it's kind of hanging out there in Butte Pass, I believe is where you say it's at. And so it's hanging there, but tomorrow it could change, and it could come streaming down the valley. So we're telling you, we all know the smoke's out there. We all know the fire's there, but we got to make that plan. What's going on? What are we going to do if it does come down? We've got a trigger point. I'm going to say trigger point. I'm going to say decision point of where we're going to go to level 2. What does level 2 mean? Level 2 means that you probably should get things packed up and be ready to go at a moment's notice. Okay? Then we're going to go to a level 3. And we may only do a level 3 in increments of the valley because we want to get people out. But a level 2, basically what we're going to say is for that valley, we're going to close that road to local residents only at a level 2 because we don't want people going in there that don't actually live there. Level 3, we're going to ask people to go. It's a non-mandatory evacuation. But make the choice. Have your stuff ready and get out of harm's way is what I'm asking you to do. Okay? You got to listen to us. Trust us that thing's coming down. There's in 2015, we've had places that were in level 3 for a long time. But the reason for that is we don't know what that fire is going to do. It can change instantly with the conditions. So what I'm asking you to do, if you hear these levels, look at them, learn them, know what to do. Have that plan. Okay? You may think, well, I'm going to stay there with my garden hose. Okay? And there's people that way. But guess what? All of a sudden we ask the co-op to shut power off. Because we don't want power poles burning, coming down the roadway with electricity lines hot, and doing more damage and killing people. And all of a sudden your old water just goes like that. You may have a generator, but is it worth it? Is it really worth it? So I'm just asking you, number 1, look around your house, clean things up, have a plan, know when to go. And that, honestly, you got to have that plan set. I think I'm good. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to move into the open house time. We'll be at these maps. We will talk to you all night until our voices run out. We're here for you and your questions. Thank you, guys.
Thank you again.